Hello, and welcome to another episode of We Have Got to Talk. My name is Anna.
My name is Elisha.
And we've always tried to be really honest and open about our situations, what we like, what we don't like,
Right,
our opinions for the most part. So today we thought we would just give you a little more history and background as to things that have affected us in our lives.
right.
I know I talked a little bit about this in the past. When my husband and I met, we met like late 20s, early 30s, got married, and we knew right away we wanted to have kids. In your 20s, I was on birth control. I wasn't ready to have a family at that time. I didn't want to accidentally get pregnant.
Yeah.
And that was the quick fix. And you just go on birth control. I even
Everyone
tried,
did.
right,
Yeah.
right. I even tried the ring
Okay.
at one point, which was interesting
One of
because
those implants.
you put it in
Oh
yourself once a month
gosh.
and it
That
just
sounds like
hangs out there.
Oh my God. People when you were telling me about something lately where like it's like you just put it in there instead of a tampon and it just sort of like and
Oh,
then you rinse it out
the
and that just
period
made
cup.
and I thought to myself,
Yeah, why would you do that? That's a whole nother level.
and then you take it out and you rinse it in the sink
Mm,
and you put it back in. Anyway,
yeah.
it's a lot of
Okay.
work.
No.
So
But anyway,
you tried
yeah.
that.
So, this is going back 15, 20 years, more than that of being on birth control.
Right.
So finally, when we decided we got married, we wanted to have kids, I kind of like just immediately stopped because that's what you're supposed to do.
That's what they say to do.
But obviously, we had issues. It wasn't my husband, it was me. I did not produce eggs, I did not have enough progesterone.
Okay.
So, of course, we went to an infertility specialist. And I don't know if he still practices with Dr. Friedman. He was in like the Warminster, Warrington area.
Ironically, I went to
Will,
the same place as
yes.
her.
Amazing, amazing. I said my girlfriend there when she tried to get pregnant, like he was just an
So good.
amazing doctor. And we started out, he just wanted the basics. Let's see if this is going to work. So you start on a bunch of medicine and like hormonal balancing and stuff like that. We did that for a little bit. It didn't work.
Okay.
Then we went to IUI, which is basically they insert the sperm into the
On the
female.
right exact day,
Yes,
right?
like
Like
it has to
the
be
day you
timed.
ovulate is the day they put it
Yeah.
just to make sure everything
Hmm.
lines up. Okay.
Right. So we did one round of that. And then we did not get pregnant. I never had a miscarriage, thankfully. That was something that obviously we were concerned with. But after that, we were just kind of being impatient and we were like, let's just go straight to IVF. Let's just get it done. So we had planned for that. Obviously, there's a lot of injections. You have to inject yourself with needles every morning and
Yes.
hormones, and your body's all getting out of whack, and your brain is getting out of whack.
Yeah.
And it's a very emotional time. And we were, like I said, I was in my early 30s, and it was just a tough road because at one point I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
I cried to my mom, like, I don't know if I'm going to have kids. And we talked about adoption as being something of an alternative if this didn't work out, and at the time, insurance didn't cover this in
No.
Pennsylvania.
No, they didn't.
Nothing. Now, in Jersey, where, my girlfriend was and she did IVF, it covers it. And I think nowadays it
I
does,
think it
but back
does.
then we had to pay everything out of pocket. I mean, thankfully we could afford to do that. I just remember when we went to tell our family that we were going to do IVF, and we were so nervous about it. So we kind of like sat them down and had a little dinner and explained them, because old school family, you don't really get like all this new
True.
science and technology, right?
Yeah.
So I remember going in that morning and being so afraid and nervous about it. But our first round of IVF worked and it was like amazing. But we did have some struggles with that pregnancy.
Yes.
They tell you not to take any pregnancy tests, right? So you're just kind of waiting now. I think it was like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks. And then they tell you at 2 weeks you're really 4 weeks pregnant. And you're like, I did. Right?
Yeah. So I was good. I didn't take the tests. And then they call you in, take your blood work. They made me wait and call me. And I remember I was working with my husband. We had an office in the Northeast, and we got that phone call, and he knew I was on the phone with the doctor, and just stopped and froze, and I had tears in my eyes, and like
Aw.
he just jumped up and like, okay, the office is closed, we're gonna celebrate, you
Aw.
know.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing time, and we were so excited. And we go back for the follow-up to check the embryos, make sure everything's like going as planned. And baby B was very, very tiny, and they just kept saying, listen, we just want to warn you that it might not make it. We didn't even know if it was a she at the time.
Okay.
And of course, that's sad. We didn't even realize we were having twins. It
Right.
was a possibility because with IVF, we did put 2 embryos in. And I know nowadays they usually lean towards 1 embryo going in there because of all the females that were having multiples during that time frame too.
Right.
I know at least over 10 people that have twins that are around the same age as my kids.
In this
Yeah.
particular age group, yeah, there's
Yeah.
a ton.
So yeah, we put 2 embryos in. They both took. So we had twins growing. But that one twin was like, maybe not going to make it. They weren't sure. They just wanted to let me know and give me a heads up. So as exciting we were and happy that we were pregnant, then it was like, oh no, what if one doesn't make it?
Right.
But this little fighter, she was like determined
Yeah.
to stay alive. And I always tell her that she's been fighting since even before birth.
Right.
So we had 2 beautiful preemie babies. So that was another struggle with just keeping them safe and getting checked. And I was at high risk. They referred me to CHOP. So I was going every week to CHOP
Yeah.
to get, blood work, get checked. I even did an amnio because, again, she still was growing, but not as fast as baby A.
Yeah.
So I had an amnio done just on her, which in itself is a risk. They're putting this huge needle in your stomach to take the
Yes.
fluid. They never ever quite gave me an exact answer as to what the problem was, but she was born with an omphalocele, which is part of your liver and intestines is outside of your stomach. So she didn't have a belly button. Her belly was open. It didn't form properly. And those parts just were kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
So she gets taken out. It was an emergency C-section because at 32 weeks, when I went for my checkup, they wouldn't let me go home. They just said, she's coming out today.
Yeah.
She is not growing anymore, and we don't want to keep her in there any longer than we have to. We're going to get her out there and keep her safe. So we were just as shocked as anybody else because we weren't planning this. They were due in December, and this is now October.
Yeah.
And I say, like, God had a plan for me because that month my mom was planning my baby shower and I was crying to her, like, don't do the shower. I don't know what's going to happen. These babies, they're making me nervous.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, we're still having the shower. We're going to do it. So we had the shower 10 days before. Then that week before they were born on a Friday. So that Monday or Tuesday, we went to have belly pictures taken at the JCPenney photography.
I've done that. Not the belly pictures, but I've done the
Yeah.
JCPenney
Yeah.
portraits.
That was the easy thing
like
back then.
$79.99.
So I was so excited. I wanted belly pictures. And then the following day, I went to a church in Jersey with my mom. They were celebrating all pregnant women. So it was a church full of pregnant women being
That's
blessed for that holiday of Saint Gerard. And then that Friday was when I went in for my 32-week checkup and they were born. So I believe everything happens for a reason, and it did. And it was like so surreal. My husband's calling her on the phone. The babies are coming out today. And she's like, what? Like, what's happening right now?
Right.
And everybody was like scrounging around trying to figure out what to do. And they just wheeled me off. And I had that emergency C-section, which I have very detailed pictures from that too.
Oh my God.
My husband
That I don't have.
going under the curtain taking pictures. And the doctor thought it was
Have
crazy.
you looked at them? You've seen
I've
it?
seen them. I have them somewhere in a box now, but
I'm so curious to know what it looked like.
yeah, lots of gore
Stuff. Lots of stuff.
stuff hanging out of my body.
Yeah.
They were in the NICU. It was so crazy. The baby A, Angelina, was born at 3 pounds and 15 ounces, which is still preemie. And Eliana was only 1.6 pounds. So she was
tiny.
like tiny, the size of my husband's hand. It was insane. Just thinking about it and looking back on pictures, I can't believe how she's grown up to be this amazing 15-year-old girl right now. So they waited until she was 5 pounds to even do the surgery on her stomach. So she was wrapped up the entire time, feeding tubes and the blue light and everything.
Yeah.
Like, we went through all that stuff. And as a new mom, you are so scared. You don't
Yeah.
know what is happening. You feel helpless. Now we were doing the kangarooing every day. Like I was going there every day, just letting her lay on my chest, skin to skin, because that's how they feel you and like thrive from
Right.
feeling that connected, and then the blood and everything. Angelina came home after 5 weeks. So then I still had to go back because I was pumping and I was bringing the milk and pumping and bringing milk. So now I'm bringing this little newborn with me to CHOP to see my other newborn. It was just such an adventure. And I couldn't drive because I had a C-section.
Right.
So my mother-in-law worked at a printing company and they had this older gentleman that was just their driver, a runner guy.
Yeah.
And he helped us and he would
That's
come pick me
nice.
up and drop me off at CHOP. And then I'd call him up when I was ready to come home and he'd pick me up and he was so sweet. And I did this every single day.
Right.
Because in my head, I'm like, I had to be there with my kids.
Yeah.
I look back on it and you just get that motherly instinct as a first time mother and you just know you have to do it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing going to stop you. I think I only missed one day because we had a snowstorm and no one was driving that day. There was nothing open. So I'm just calling and checking in and making sure she's okay. I remember Christmas time, my mom came with me. We got these little cutesy dresses and I dressed her up in her little crib. And
Aww.
I was like, can we just take the two out for 5 minutes so I could take some pictures? So she allowed me to do that. We took little pictures of the girls together. And that was like their first Christmas. So Eliana was not home for her first Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a great hospital.
They are.
And they had so many amazing nurses and staff there and just the people that donate clothes there and making knitted blankets and hats for the preemies. Like it's just amazing the service that they get there.
Yeah.
And they did have a Santa come and like they did like little pictures there. So she wasn't home for Christmas, but that was her first Christmas.
Yeah.
So.
And she's in the best possible place.
Yes.
Where she needed to be.
And then after the holidays in January, she was big enough with her surgery. That was torturous for me. I still think about today. I see her in the crib and she's staring at me with these big eyes, like, Mommy, what's going to happen? And I'm like bawling my eyes out as I'm about to now.
Yeah.
The doctor was just the best surgeon there at the time. He's like, you're in great hands. I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to let you know that I'm not going to make her a belly button because,
she's too little.
She's too little and it's nothing that she needs right now.
Right.
He said when she gets older, if she wants to have one, then she can have one. She can make one and have surgery for it. So she's never been self-conscious of it. I think I was more self-conscious of it for her because kids can be mean, right? Oh, what is that? Why does your belly look like that? So I would always make sure she was covered when she was little, or bathing suits would not be like the little cute bikinis. They'd just be covered. And then at some point she wanted to wear the bikini and I let her and it was fine. She's never worried about it. She's never been upset that she looked different. And I don't think really anybody questioned it. I think it was like...
No, and she didn't question it. Her first crop top, I think, was at my house, right? So her and Sophia cut these shirts. And they never went back for like 2 years. They both wouldn't stop wearing crop tops.
That is true. I know. Yeah. When crop tops started coming.
They had confidence.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. For sure. She's definitely been a fighter. She's definitely a tough one to handle. I do have to say, though, that anything she puts her mind to, she's got it. She's going to do it. God bless her. She's doing great. And Angelina, too. Angelina was a little bit bigger. She came home after 5 weeks. Just to see them, Little Women right now, they're amazing. And of course, to have 2 sets of twins, that's probably something everyone, says, oh my God, you have 2 sets of twins.
Right.
So we just thought that my husband wanted a son. And after that, I was like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, we'll go back, tell the doctor we want to do the same thing because it worked, but no more than 2.
Right.
Because now we're like, oh God, because even if you put 2 embryos, those can split.
Yeah.
So you could have 4.
You could have identical, and then you could, you could have 6. You could have a lot.
So we did do the same thing. We went right to IVF again, and as we were planning this and going through the motions, he asked us if we wanted to genetically select a boy, which at 12 years ago, we're like, wow, you can do that?
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think everyone does it. Celebrities, not like average people, but who knows?
More people.
But definitely celebrities. Everyone seems to have a boy and a girl.
Right.
But anyway, we were like totally shocked when he asked us that question. And we're like, oh, okay. So we went home, talked about it. And I was like, you know what? Let's leave it in God's hands. I don't want to play with this.
Yeah.
God forbid. I don't know. This seems really weird to me.
Yeah.
So I remember going through the motions again. And this time we didn't tell our family until we actually had the first sonogram. And then we just put it in a frame and was like, here you go. You're having more grandkids. So they were surprised and they didn't know that it was happening the second time. And I just remember going to get the genetic testing to see if it was a boy or a girl. And baby A is a boy. And my husband's running around the room. Yeah, I'm having a boy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, there's another one in there. Do you want to see what that one's
the other one is? Yeah.
So we ended up with a boy and a girl. But thank God we had the boy because I would not be doing this again. That was my limit, especially 2 at a time. Everyone says, how do you do 2? But I started with 2.
Right.
So that's all I know. Like, that's what I was doing. I was breastfeeding, I was pumping, I was supplementing with milk because I didn't produce enough. Like, there's just so much that goes into having kids, not only, 1 or 2, but it was a lot. Obviously, I love my children. I wouldn't change a thing. But yeah, twins are definitely interesting. And now they're all growing and learning and
getting there.
Different personalities and attitudes.
Yes.
But just a little bit of my journey.
Yeah. And just like
my family.
You are.
And
Yeah.
So I know I say I'm a diva and everything, but I am a mom first and a wife. And, our daily household is chaotic. After I leave the gym every day, I come home and I'm walking the dog and getting food ready and driving here and driving there. So it's not all glamorous.
It's nonstop. Nonstop.
Yes.
Most of it's not glamorous, actually, to be honest with you, right?
Yes.
Most of it.
The weekends I put on a good facade, but
yeah. Well, she likes to get dressed up, don't we all, though, right?
But that's just a little journey of my history and my family. And I know Elisha's been through some crazy things too.
You know what? It's something that I thought today. Well, I've referenced it a couple times and I thought it might be a good time to share. I know that I've referenced my accident, that I had an accident when I was younger that was very impactful for me. So to sort of explain the story, my husband and I got married at 25 years old, and at 26. So it was almost to the day. It was like like 20 days short of a year of being married. I left my job to go to a dentist appointment, and I was driving some back roads. It was raining, and I thought, oh, I recognize that swamp road. I didn't know the roads at the time. I think I can cut through that way. So I took that road, and the next thing I know, I woke up and I was trapped in my car. And I had a head-on collision with another car. So we had hit, each going at about 30 miles an hour. So the impact, I think, is at like 70 miles an hour. And then we mashed together and we went another 100 yards into a ditch. And I do not remember the moment of impact, which I probably am lucky for. But I remember waking up and just seeing gray goo all over the place from my airbags. And the steering wheel was on my legs. So I couldn't move. You're like pinned in. So I just remember being panicked. I never felt like I was fearing for my life. I was just in a panic about being there, and I didn't feel pain right off the bat. And I looked outside the car and I could see, the driver from the other vehicle. I was, screaming to help me. And then it took a couple hours. They came.
So you were sitting there for a few hours.
Wow. Because our cars were attached, and like I said, I was pinned. I had a purple PT Cruiser convertible. So luckily they could, open the roof, and then they had to cut the steering wheel and the panel off my legs to get me out. And the damage that happened was that my left femur was shattered above the kneecap. So about 4 inches of bone just shattered in my femur bone. And I broke my knee. I broke my right knee, and I broke my feet, and I broke my wrists, and I broke my ribs, and I broke my teeth. And so I was just a mess. But what they found was that the bone had come out of my left leg. So it comes through the skin, called a compound fracture. So they pulled me out of the car. They put me into a helicopter, and they airlifted me to St. Mary's. And at that time, I remember being just sort of in and out. I would wake up in pain and scream and yell. I didn't know what was wrong, which is just so interesting to think back like you're in that moment. But I really wasn't like, what's wrong with me? I was just really am hurting. Like somebody effing fix this. I was not nice. I remember yelling and screaming and then they would give me something and I would go out. And I learned later that my husband came in at one point. They let him know that they were trying to find this doctor that would be able to do this particular surgery where they would need to amputate my left leg because of the bones. And so my poor husband was just a mess. And all my family came in and they were all trying to figure it out. And what they ended up was they had a surgeon from another hospital fly to St. Mary's that night because I was young. I was 26. I was thin. I was a good candidate for this surgery where they would put a titanium rod through my left femur bone. They would connect it up at the thigh and at the knee. And the hopes was that if I lay still for a number of months, that bone would then grow around that rod and I would have a leg. Like the bone would be there, I'd be able to walk. So that was the hope. No one knew for certain. So when I woke up, I learned all these things that happened. I learned that I had this mess of situation. And I remember the doctor saying, you will hopefully be able to walk within maybe a year. And like the impact of that was like mind blowing to me because I had just gotten a great new job and I just gotten promoted and I just gotten married. And I was just like, you have to be kidding me that this has happened to me right now. So it was really like a huge moment for me. And I woke up and all my family was there. And it was just a journey that began that day that I had to like heal and get through all this. And I did, thankfully, for my family, my husband, all of my doctors. Lay still for many months. I was sent home in a hospital bed. So we set one up in my house. We had a nurse come in every day. My family came in and took turns watching me to just help the burden. But within about, I think it was 6 months, there was enough bone there that I stood up.
Oh, wow.
And I used a walker. And then I used a wheelchair when I went back to work. I used a cane. And then I started to walk more normally. And over time, I've gotten over a lot of it. But it's such a long road and such a huge impact on my life, all in all, because that day set me on a completely different course. You're going one direction. And just like that, in a blink of an eye, like everything changed for me. And I did get through it and have overcome it. And now I'm working out. I mean, I've been dancing for the last 10 years, and moving around and lifting weights and doing all these amazing things. We didn't think that I would be here.
Right.
So it's just one of those things that like, it's amazing what the human body can do that you can overcome. You put your mind to it. And I remember my dad, when he would come in and stay with me, he would say, oh, you got to lift weights with your one arm because you're going to need that arm when the time comes. So I'd be in my bed and I'd be lifting my little arm weight.
Nice.
He was right. When the time came for the walker, I needed my arm muscles, step by step, like you get through all those things and you get better. But that's a huge part of who I am. It's impacted a lot about me. Like I know I reference it.
Right. Because having that happen to you at such a young age definitely changes your outlook on life. And, it could have been taken away from you. There's like a moment of like, holy shit, I'm here for a reason. So got to do good things.
You got to do good things. And you know what? It just takes away all vanity.
Yeah.
If anyone has ever been in a situation where like you just lose absolute control, right? I lost control of what I was able to eat, like what to wear, what to do with my day, where I could be. And you sort of just have to let go of everything.
Right.
So it does change a lot about who you are. I think it made me more accepting. I definitely have learned to roll with the punches more in my life, I think, as a result of this. Because when you do lose control, you have to just sort of trust that there is a greater plan, and you just have to go with it. And the support of those people around you, like my husband, he moved a mattress next to that hospital bed next to me in our house for 6 months.
Yeah.
And he slept there. He did not sleep in our bed one night
Aw.
without me. And it, like, really forged a bond
Mhm.
that we already had, but was so much deeper
Right.
because, you know, it could have gone the other way. A lot of people, when they go through something like that, when he has to become a caregiver
Mhm.
to me, which was embarrassing for me and probably embarrassing for him in many moments, can change your relationship.
Oh,
It can
absolutely.
tear it
Yeah.
apart.
Mhm.
Or
Some
it
people
can,
don't know how to handle it.
right.
Yeah, they don't know what to do and they struggle with having to take care of someone else. And especially you guys were young
Yes.
too, newly married, like everything's so new to you. And
Yes.
that's a lot.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you become a burden to them, not
Mhm.
meaning to be, but
Right.
obviously you
Right.
become a burden to them.
Right.
And, he had to take care of me for a long time after that, but he did. So it's just the strength within him, came over. These things that you go through in your life really just absolutely impact who you are and such a big part of our personalities. I think I'm a very different person than I was the day before that accident. I'm going to get emotional, but
Mhm.
for sure, it changed who I was as a person.
Mhm.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure the same for you
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
Eliana, especially.
Yeah. I think people only see the surface of who we are sometimes.
Yeah, like we're laughing all the time.
Right. Everyone has a story, everyone has something one way or another that has impacted them or changed them. But I think this is just, a thing to always think twice about that person or judging that person because you don't know what they've been
So
through
true.
or how they got here. It's not always the easiest road and it's not always something that's handed to you. In your case, like you said, it could have gone a whole different way for
Whole
you.
different way.
It shows how strong of a person that you are, that you were able to overcome this and be the strongest person that you are today and doing these great things. So just always be nice to people.
Yeah,
That's
I think sometimes, especially on a different note, like social media, seeing people, you think, oh, they're so lucky
Mhm.
or oh, they have it so good.
Right.
But you don't always know the road that they have had to travel in order to get there,
Yep,
right? Like you
absolutely.
have this amazing family and these beautiful kids, but you had to, go through some really tough things in order to build that family.
Yeah.
And for me, I am physically fit and dancing, but it doesn't mean that it came easy to me. It's
Mhm.
been a struggle every day. And I often say that I like to see what I can get out of my body,
Mm.
things I didn't think I could.
Yeah.
And every day I am surprised by what I am able to overcome. Because I think a lot of times it's very easy to say, well, I've got this issue, so I can't do that.
Right.
I did that for many years. There,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I can't. I can't. Did I not say to you so many times, I can't lift weights?
Mhm.
I have the issues with my legs.
Yeah.
You 100% heard me say that like a
Oh,
thousand
yeah.
times
I
to you.
remember when you first started coming to Body Pump
Yeah.
and which is fine. You start out slow, but I'm like, you've been in this for a while. You can up it a little bit. And she's like, no, I don't think I can do that. No,
Right.
no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And it's a comfort level. Everybody has to have that comfort and be willing to push your limits.
True.
Sometimes you just got to be like, you know what? I'm going to do this and I'm going to push myself a little harder today.
Yes.
You never know what you're going to be able to accomplish when you do that.
You really don't. Knowing that it's okay to be uncomfortable and it's
Yes.
okay. There's a difference between pain and just struggle,
Yeah.
like pushing yourself through something.
Hmm.
Like, am I in pain right now? Or is this just actually hard? And
Right.
learning that about your body, like, this is hard, but I'm not in pain. I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, I can do a
I
squat.
say that when I'm working out.
You're in real pain. You're in like major stress
right now,
It
but
does suck, but
and then
you're
after
not hurt.
I did it. I did it.
But you're not hurt.
Mhm.
And that's what I say to the Lissy who's helping me and training me. I'm like, she's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm not in pain, but this, I'm just letting, not in pain, but it hurts.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's knowing those things about your body and be willing to push,
Right.
push beyond your comfort zone, push beyond what you've been told that you can do. And I was told I could do XYZ by doctors and had the mindset. I remember them saying, if you work really hard,
Mhm.
you could be walking 6 months, and I think I just beat that point, like, I was up on my walker because it was like, "F you." I
Right.
feel like when people tell me I can't do something, it's always
Yeah.
been a part of me, maybe this is my dad in me, that I'm like, "F you." Like,
Yeah.
I can do it, and I can do it faster than
Yeah.
you think I can,
You got to
and
prove them wrong.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
more like it's not like outwardly abrasive, but I do have that inner
Hmm.
part of me
Right.
that will be like, "Oh, I will do it," you know? So I think it's good to have that, as
For
long as it's a
sure.
positive
For
thing,
sure.
it's good to have that.
You know what? You got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and push yourself and see what great things you can accomplish because staying steady is easy
It
and
is.
it's not always the best, but like a lot of people do take the easy way out because they
Yeah.
don't want to do anything that's a little scary or challenging or something new to them. You know, today, for instance, I went and did mat Pilates.
Oh,
I don't do this nonsense, but
yeah.
I heard it's good. I heard it's good for the core. I'm like, all right, well, let me try it. And I enjoyed it. It was a good class,
You like it?
yeah. With my trainer, like those weights are going on. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. But I didn't. I didn't
Nice.
die. But that's just, I love it. I love the push. I need the push. And I feel like a lot of people would probably do more if they had that extra push.
That's so true because
Yeah.
our mind stops us.
Yeah. Like
If
I push my kids. I'm like, you could do this. You got this. So, oh, I don't want to do it. No,
right.
no, no. You have to. That's my parenting style. Not everyone's, but I kind of always push them to do more
Yeah.
and to be more and to achieve more and don't just settle because why settle?
Right. Why take the easy road,
Exactly.
Yeah. Nothing just comes that easy to
Yeah.
people.
Saying if you didn't push yourself, you wouldn't be walking
I
here today.
definitely would not be. I definitely wouldn't be physically fit. I definitely wouldn't be dancing. I definitely wouldn't be productive, any of those things. So yeah, it's mind over matter, but it's a big part of us, a big part of who we are, the things that we've been through, and I thought it would be good to share.
Yeah. So that was just a little story from each of us to let you know some details that you may not have known about us
Right.
and what we are and who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to give you guys a little update on my Milo. He is going on seizure
Oh,
medication.
good.
Just so it doesn't cure all and it doesn't end all seizures, but it will definitely minimize them or
Yes.
maybe hopefully eliminate them because he doesn't have a lot, like I said, but for now, this is our only option. All his blood work came back great. All his thyroid's fine. Everything is fine. So, unfortunately, seizures, there's really no pinpoint of why it happens.
Yeah.
They just have to find something to minimize it. So, that's the little update on my
Okay.
boy.
But at least it's better, and he's got something that he can prevent this from happening because it was scary. I'm sure it was
Yeah.
scary for him.
So if you guys have a journey you want to share or something interesting or different or something that you've overcome, let us know and maybe we can talk about that together.
Yes.
So have a great day and remember next time because we
We
have
have
got
got
to
to
talk.
talk. Bye.